And we're back at the 2025 Connected Claims Conference in Orlando. And who am I speaking with?
Arvin Sontha, founder and CEO of Kyber.
What is Kyber?
Kyber is an AI native document generation and delivery platform. What we do is we help P&C insurance carriers build compliant, consistent, and personalized claims forms and correspondence at scale. And so, we purely focus on P&C insurers and helping their claims teams take care of this gnarly task of forms and correspondence.
Give the audience a sense of how gnarly.
Oh, it's gnarly. This is everything from remembering every single 30 days to send out like a status letter, or New Jersey, for example, you got to send out a status letter for first party claim act on like the 30-day mark, but if it's third party PD, every 45 days. And then take liability claims, for example. We've had carriers get dinged with anywhere from $1.5 to $15 million on a single letter for forgetting to CC an interested party.
We just saw that. So I was having this conversation this morning. The Florida OIR loves sending out notices on the companies that they have fined. And last week they fined 2 firms. A couple months ago, it was a series of firms. And when you look at the infractions, it all felt check the box type of thing. And yet it fell through the cracks.
Yep. And so the big problem here is regulations look at carriers as robots. They say, hey, you have to follow these strict guidelines, and the moment you don't, I get to slap your wrist. But at the end of the day, carriers are humans, right? It's all people behind there working day to day, doing each of these pieces, getting these things right, being there for the customer, staying empathetic, and so on. I'll give you a perfect example where New York, for example, has this requirement that you have to respond in a reasonable amount of time. That's the state statute. Carrier sent out an ROR on the 8-day mark. It got escalated, ended up going into trial, and they got slapped on the wrist for sending out an ROR on the 8th day, which the judge found as unreasonable.
Quote unquote reasonable. Right. So like in situations like that, I think about take the slap on the wrist. What ends up happening in most firms is they go back and seal that one infraction.
Yeah.
But it means that their system probably has other infractions that they're unaware of.
Correct. And I think what's happening right now in like a less carrier-friendly environment where the jury's not on their side, you have other infractions. It's really, okay, how long and how much risk do we want to take on this process? Or do we actually want to find a solution to solve this kind of once and for all and have a good actual underlying structure and system and software that enforces doing it right, rather than continuing this ad hoc solution, trying to figure these things out and saying, hey, program management's going to tell the adjuster to do this. And like the adjuster now needs to remember on top of the 10 other things that they have to do to also remember what program management said about the fact that I got to send this letter to these 3 people to get approved. Exactly. That's it. That's exactly what happens. That's what's happening day in, day out.
So is this another one of those situations where it's better off to hand it off to someone who's thinking about it 24/7, 365 versus, hey, our IT team has 15 balls in the air and they'll get to it?
So I think the answer to that is the fact that, is this problem something that only you face as a solo entity in the space? Or is this a problem that every single carrier has to deal with? And the truth is, because these regulations apply to every single carrier, a company that's dedicated and focused on solving this in a singular central place for all carriers is better positioned to do so than you having to dedicate 20 to 30% of your resources outside of your core focus in business to go about having to solve repeatedly over and over again. And so I think that's where we've seen that we're in a really good spot to help them stay compliant, think about those workflows and centralize it in a meaningful, high quality, efficient manner, rather than them going and still rebuilding these things ad hoc and keeping those things. For example, would you build payments again?
No.
Exactly. Well, right. When we've been into buy versus build conversations, like outgoing documents are very different than incoming documents. There's a lot of like really interesting and important data that is important to the organization. But like outgoing documents, like why are you building out document generation again? Instead, what you just need is a solution that understands all of those pain points and actually solves them.
And is evolving for you.
Correct. Yeah.
So like payments is, to me, the obvious example. Like just over the course of the last 2 decades, payments has dramatically changed.
Yep.
And if you had built it in-house, like you would have to understand the implications of going beyond credit card to Venmo to all the way now to Bitcoin and cryptocurrency and the implications of all of those things. This is the same thing.
Correct. And I think the reason that this space hasn't seen a lot of change in the last 2 decades is pre-AI, it really wasn't all too different. I think the existing solutions in the market have not really innovated over the last 2 decades. I think that's really where we see the opportunity to build a 10x better product that actually meets the market where it is. And I think the cool part of this is with AI and the AI templates, we also get this awesome opportunity to take things way further than they'd ever been taken before for this space.
Yeah.
And so that just becomes super compelling.
So I heard you joking over there with a couple of prospects about AS400s and like your familiarity and the stuff that you've built. This isn't your first rodeo around this. And like, you're highly familiar with the claims process. You're highly familiar with the going from a green screen to where we are today. Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, so this is what I like to say. I think insurance and financial services, people don't give insurance and financial services enough actual credit. Insurance and financial services were actually some of the first early adopters when it came to technology. Yeah. The problem is they ended up adopting technology before we figured out maintainability. And because of that, right now, 2 decades later, now we figured out how to upgrade things, continuous deployment, include, and so on. But because of that, insurance has just been caught back 20 years in kind of those initial like decisions and adoptions that happened there. I think what's exciting right now is a lot of these carriers are going through their core system transformations and migrations to cloud. And so what I like to say is I think InsurTech 1.0, for example, said that carriers would take about 10 years to migrate to cloud. And that happened like 2015, 2016. We're now seeing that happen, right? Where many of the large top 10s and large carriers are right in the middle of migrating their cores, being cloud native. And now what they're looking for is, okay, I've migrated to cloud. What's my win for doing so? What am I gaining? What access do I get? What's the new innovative solutions? And AI is really the powerful, exciting thing that, especially given how document, unstructured text heavy the industry is, unlocks a lot when it comes to general capacity, savings, and so on.
I want to talk about this. AI feels like the first of the, in the past, it was safer for an insurance company to not be an early adopter. Yeah. It was even, I think it was even safer for them to not be a fast follower. Yeah. Allow the technology to, allow the winners, the winning technology to identify itself and then adopt that. Yeah. I think this is the first of the technologies where it's like, if you are not adopting this early, you are falling behind and you may not be able to catch up.
That's really interesting. I think that the difference comparatively too is also, I want to say top-down pressure for AI adoption. I think CEOs very much recognize the impact that this is going to have on the industry and the fact that moving quickly is going to really become a massive competitive advantage when it comes to just being more efficient or being more cost-effective or so on, right? And so I think with cloud, the question was like, why? I already have my servers. I already invested all this money. I already have all of this stuff, right? And so it's like, now I'm going to go trust all my core workload with some person or some stranger that I don't know anything about. And like, where's the data? Wait, what? You want me? Versus with AI, it's very clear in terms of the ROI immediately. Everybody has pretty much already had, and because of kind of the proliferation of AI as a service, I think everybody's had their, wow, this is amazing moment much faster. Versus with cloud, like, comparatively on the user side, there was no big difference, like seeing something on, like accessing a web service through on-prem or accessing it via cloud. So this mind share of, okay, what's the difference? What am I actually getting for this? Was so much more back-end versus front-end and actually getting that wow delight moment. Yeah.
So there's another aspect to the AI, and it's some firms are like, let's find some use cases, and they do it piecemeal. I'm actually rather impressed with the number of companies who have recognized, we would be wasting our time if we did it piecemeal. Like, we need to lock in and just go all through. Talk about why that is, for this particular technology, ultimately that's the better implementation.
I'm gonna go further and say that actually insurance needs to do that more broadly for any type of technology. I think there's a lot of downside. And think about insurance. Insurance is about risk mitigation, right? It's about risk transfer, risk mitigation, and so on. And I think that also translates into technology adoption, where what we end up doing is we end up doing like little pilots that are not really good experiments. And it's either, oh, but we're not measuring this metric, or we don't have a good like option A. And then you end up spending so much time in so many cycles just trying to get that right. When in reality, like, you need to rip the Band-Aid, you need to make a commitment. And the ways that you go about making that decision are talk to the vendor's existing customers, see what their solution looked like, understand how their business and how its differences in relation to your business. And in terms of what they can say about this vendor and how their business helped them, understand how that actually would fit into your business. Does that actually drive meaningful change? Does it actually adjust meaningful things? And use those as probably better guiding principles in terms of when to make the decision to actually adopt a solution. Because once you adopt a solution, it's really important for both parties to feel like, hey, we're invested in this together. This is a serious partnership, and we're going to go and take this fully all the way through to the end zone with the big confetti cannons, with that touchdown that makes everybody happy, instead of, okay, let's piecemeal it, let's drag this on. And that's really how you end up in kind of the fatigue state of, we're a year down the line, there's still 50% left to go, because we've been piecemealing kind of that go live and that implementation.
And it increases the vendor management risk, because you've got multiple parties that you're piecemealing and testing out, and 4 vendors for this, 3 vendors for this. So you can't possibly manage all of those different vendors. And so that seems to be the impressive evolution of insurance. Is I look at what AIG has done with Palantir, and they've essentially ripped apart everything and are basically now an AI company.
Yep. And it's great to see that. I think we just need to be doing more of that in terms of like, how do you make upfront decisions? And then how do you also hold the vendor accountable for doing the right thing, right? So if they're making promises, like, how do you hold them accountable to make sure that, hey, what you promise is what you're actually delivering on? And if you fail to deliver on those promises, like, this is how contractually I can hold you accountable. Yeah. We only want to also be working with partners that view this problem as something serious that they want to be solving, because we're a nice, lean, mean team doing a lot with what we have. But we do that because the partnerships that we pick, we're very thoughtful about.
Yeah. I like that. Final question is, we're in Orlando. What's your favorite theme park?
Ooh, oh man. So the last time I was here, we did do the Universal Studios one and the Harry Potter world with the Hagrid ride, the motorcycle. I actually have my motorcycle license. Mom, you didn't hear that. But the Harry Potter Hagrid like motorcycle ride is a ton of fun.
So Universal's 3 for 3.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, there you go. I think Disney's Magical Time, I think their prices are a bit too high right now.
I live in Florida, so you get the Florida discount, and it's still too high.
Yeah, there you go. Look, anytime you price it higher, you got to make sure the value tracks. So sure, you might be painting your trash cans every week, but don't care, me.
Arvin, thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. Really appreciate it, Nick.